Hello, welcome back. We are in Numbers chapter 23. I had the privilege of having coffee this morning with a brand new friend in person, but we have been friends in other ways online and stuff for years. So we got to meet, had a great conversation, and I love that he's listening, and we're going to make it a thing. We're going to do that a little bit more often. Uh, I'm not saying you have to try to meet with me and anything like that, but if you want to, reach out and ask. That's just who I am. I don't have a press team or a group or a manager or anything like that. If you want to talk about something, let, let's hook up and talk about something. So this is Numbers chapter 23. I'm going to read from the Complete Jewish Bible. As always, a good reminder is to, when you study your Bible, use a notebook, make some notes, ask yourself some questions, ask God some questions, but also go back to the beginning of these videos to get some context if this is your first one, because some of the things we're going to talk about won't make a whole lot of sense. And the goal is to get people in a closer relationship with God's Word, know what it says. And I don't run a church or a ministry or anything like that. I don't have credentials as a pastor ministry kind of thing. I mean, I'm ordained, but I have a degree from the Texas A&M Corpus Christi in business. So don't give up on your dreams. This is not an inspirational podcast, but either way, I like that. Do what God leads you to do. And no matter how far away, or especially if the people in the elite status class say don't do it, you can't do it, then definitely go do it. So let's jump right in. I'm going to read from the Complete Jewish Bible because I think it does a lot better job with they don't add the Lord, make it sound more like Jesus does most of the stuff here. So uh, Balaam said to Balak, build me 7 altars here and prepare me 7 bulls and 7 rams here. Balak did as Balaam said. Then Balak and Balaam offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Balaam said to Balak, stand by your burnt offering while I go off. Maybe Adonai will come and meet me, and whatever he shows me, I will tell you. He went off to a bare hill. God met with Balaam and said to him, I prepared the 7 altars and offered a bull and a ram at each altar. Then Adonai put a word in Balaam's mouth and said, go on back to Balak and speak as I will tell you. He went back to him, and there, standing by his burnt offering, he with all the princes of Moab, he made his pronouncement. Balak, the king of Moab, brings me from Aram, from the eastern hills, saying, come, curse Yaakov for me. Come and denounce Israel. How am I to curse those whom God has not cursed? How am I to denounce those whom Adonai has not denounced? From the top of the rocks I see them, from the hills I behold them. Yes, a people that will dwell alone and not think itself one of the nations. Who has counted the dust of Yaakov, or numbered the ashes of Israel? May I die as the righteous die. My end be like theirs. Balak said to Balaam, what have you done to me? To curse my enemies is why I brought you here, and you have totally blessed them. He answered, mustn't I take care to say just what Adonai puts in my mouth? Balaam, Balak said to him, all right, come with me to another place where you can see them. You will see only some of them, not all, but you can curse them for me from there. He took him through to the field of Zophim, to the top of the Pisgah range, built 7 altars, and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Balaam said to Balak, stand here by your burnt offering while I go over there for a meeting. Adonai met Balaam, put a word in his mouth, and said, go on back to Balak and speak as I tell you. He came to him and stood by his burnt offering with all the princes of Moab. Balak asked him, what did Adonai say? Then Balaam made this pronouncement, get up, Balak, and listen. Turn your ears to me, son of Zippor. God is not a human who lies, or a mortal who changes his mind. When he says something, he will do it. When he makes a promise, he will fulfill it. Look, I am ordered to bless. When he blesses, I can't reverse it. No one has seen guilt in Yaakov or perceived perversity in Israel. Adonai, their God, is with them and acclaimed as king among them. God who brought them out of Egypt gives them the strength of a wild ox. Thus one can't put a spell on Yaakov. No magic will work against Israel. It can now be said of Yaakov and Israel, what is this that God has done? Here is a people rising up like a lioness. Like a lion, he rears himself up. He will not lie down until he eats up the prey and drinks the blood of the slain. Balak said to Balaam, obviously you won't curse them, but at least don't bless them. However, Balaam answered Balak, didn't I warn you that I must do everything that Adonai says? I say that sometimes, like, well, you asked me a question, what would God say about this? And now you're mad at me because I told you what God said. So Balak said to Balaam, come on, I will take you now to another place, and maybe it will please God for you to curse them for me from there. Balak took Balaam to the top of Peor, overlooking the desert. Balaam said to Balak, build me 7 altars here and prepare me 7 bulls and 7 rams. Balak did as Balaam said and offered a bull and a ram on each altar. Now, it's important to remember too that all of the chapters and verses, all that separation we did, people did that. So this is really one story, and that's why we're kind of getting pieces of this as we go through chapter by chapter. So Balaam tells God that he sacrificed on the 7 altars, and God doesn't reply to that. He doesn't say anything to that. And I think it's because he didn't instruct the sacrifice. It wasn't done where and how he said do it. This was done because the king said do it. So God tells Balaam what to say to the king. He says, I'm just going to put the words in your mouth and you just go say it. So Balaam says that even though King Balak brought him to curse Israel, no man can put a curse on that which Jehovah has blessed. So as much as that may have infuriated the king, Balaam goes on to prophesy a great future for Israel. So he restates God's promise to Abraham in that the Hebrews will multiply into uncountable numbers. But something else is said, that there is Israel, and then there is everybody else. Yes, a people that will dwell alone or apart and not be reckoned as among the nations. So he says something that's important. They'll be alone, they'll be different from everybody else. Israel is now referred to as God's people, his Amim, Amim, Amim. And all other people, Gentiles, are called nations, Goyim, Goyim. Goyim means Gentiles or Gentile nations. Balaam says that it will be a blessing for him and all mankind if they can find righteousness in the eyes of the Hebrew God and die in that knowledge of blessing. Now, he wouldn't have understood what that meant, but we get to look back and say, wait a minute, that's what we do. We find righteousness in the eyes of the Hebrew God through our knowledge. We die in the knowledge of that blessing provided through Yeshua the Messiah. That's us. He wouldn't have understood that, but God used him to get the message to others. So this is one of several times that Gentiles will express a desire to be put under the benefits of Israel's covenants. So a famous example, of course, is Ruth, a Gentile woman. In Ruth 1:16, it says, your people shall be my people and your God shall be my God. And God reveals to us progressively when the time is right. It astounds me sometimes that the thing that Balaam pronounced 3,300 years ago and what Ruth stated a couple of hundred years later, that if Gentiles wanted to be included in God's blessing, it would be done via the Abrahamic covenant of Israel. That Only now is a segment of the church starting to realize that they've got to grasp that covenant. That's the key, is that covenant. Jesus is the way to that covenant. So Jehovah says that our relationship with him is based on Israel's covenants. That's why we're studying all of this. So in verse 19, God says that he is not Ben Adam, meaning a son of man. So this is just another way of saying that the Lord is not a human, always changing. The Hebrew is Ben Adam, Ben, Ben, Adam, Adam, not a man. That's where we get the name Adam from the Garden of Eden. So he doesn't change his mind. So this was strange to Balaam and Balak, because what God doesn't change their mind. That was the whole point of you pleasing a God so much, it would change its mind and give you whatever you wanted. That's where child sacrifice and sacrificing all these other things came from. So King Balak volunteers to take Balaam to another place, the peak of Peor, Peor. So King Balak believes that he just needs to appease this God a little more. If I'll just go to the right place and I'll do the right sacrifice, I'll be able to do it. But because he's doing these sacrifices and this worship in the way he thinks he should, what seems right to him, but it's not the way God said do it in the Bible. And so that's why God doesn't respond to him. Because if he was familiar with Jehovah and his law, he would know there's only one way to do that. And he was doing it his own way. We should consider that when we build churches and do all this worship music that just sounds good, especially bringing in songs that are anti-biblical. That was a great conversation we had today too. So God bless. I hope this helps. We'll jump into Numbers chapter 24 next time. God bless. Love God, love people, and change the world.